taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
Hello out there in social media land. It's another Sunday night here on Uncensored Conversation with your girl, Victoria's in the house with my phenomenal guest on tonight. And I'm telling you, we was already getting into the conversation, but guys, I'm telling you, you do not want to miss tonight at all. Please go out there, care, share, and like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as our social media pages on that we have out there. I am so excited about this young lady that is with me on tonight. She is a returning guest, and she is also a phenomenal lady. And all of the things that I have watched her do. I've heard her talk, and she was, as a matter of fact, our keynote speaker last year on our domestic violence conference, and she will be coming back to the panel, guys, in 2024. So you want to get ready and get excited with me. My guest tonight is the phenomenal, the author, actress, life coach, pastor, preacher, teacher, walking the walk and doing the thing. She ain't just talking about it, she's walking about it. Lady Dr. Clara Peters is in the house, y'all. Y'all better get ready. Dr. Peters, it is always a pleasure to be in your presence, and it has been too long for us to get together. How are you doing tonight?
Yes, it has been too long. Thank you. It is an honor to be here. I am blessed to be able to come and share. So I'm doing wonderful.
You look absolutely amazing. You're the one of the flyest doctors I ever know. You just be fly all the time. And one thing I love about your persona is that, a lot of, the marketeers tell us to, always walk in with our, who we are, what our product and service is, or what we stand for. And I always love it because you wear that purple, that royal purple, and you wear it so well. From the rooted to the tooty. You always are in that space that helps us understand what it's all about. And guys, if you're tuning in tonight, let me just go ahead and put the disclaimer out there, Dr. Peters, because last week, we talked about mental health, and we got into some heated conversation last week, and people didn't like it too well. So tonight I want to put a disclaimer out there, and you joined us, but I want to put this disclaimer out there right now. We're going to be talking about some very, how do I want to say, sticky conversation on tonight. You guys that watch the show, the Uncensored Conversation is never scripted. It is always a conversation between me and my guests.
Mhm.
We try to share everything that we can tell you about our guests, as well as with the programs that they stand for. But sometimes the conversation can get a little bit heated. So I'm going to put this disclaimer out there that we're going to get down to the rooty and tooty. We're going to be talking about domestic violence behind the scenes, specifically behind the scenes in the church. So get ready. If you're not able, if this is a hard subject and you don't want to tackle it, then I'm gonna say to you, either get real or goodbye. Because tonight we're going to talk about this topic. We're going to bring this subject to the forefront because it is very important. October is one of those months where we talk about domestic violence. Because when I tell you that domestic violence happens every second of every day across the world, it's not just in the month of October that you experience domestic violence, but we experience the domestic violence 1 second every day of the year. So guys, get with us, share, care, and like this video and send it out to somebody else, because you never know who is going through it that might need our help on tonight. So if you can't handle it, see ya. But if you can stick with us, Dr. Peters is going to help us get to some places that some people need to get to. But Dr. Peters, I just wanted to get that out there because, I think a lot of times people don't understand that when we're talking about these specific topics, that it's just not the purple. It's not just those limited conversations, but it's real. And sometimes those conversations are hidden behind the walls of the places that people don't believe. So tonight, Dr. Peters, before we get into the conversation, please introduce yourself to all of those that are watching tonight and those that will watch later. I can't imagine anybody who has not come across you, but just in case, tell the
Okay.
people a little bit about you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Dr. Clara Peters. I'm a mother, pastor, grandmother, great grandmother. I'm a domestic violence survivor, overcomer, author. As she mentioned, I'm an actress. I did some movies. But most of all, I'm God's daughter. That is a walking testimony in so many ways. And one thing that he shared with me is that I have to be a voice for the voiceless. I cannot be quiet because there's someone that is always going to need to hear something from someone, no matter
Yes.
what. So that's why it's always good to share. Just like Sister Victoria is asking you all to share because you never know who's on your timeline that may need to hear what may be said on tonight.
Amen. Amen. So, Dr. Peters, I think a lot of times people take domestic violence has always been present, but I
Hmm.
think because people do not understand what it really means, they kind of overlook it. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we'll look at situations where Bob hit Sally one day and Sally had a black eye, but Bob said it's okay, I didn't mean to.
Hmm.
And that Bob doesn't come back. He gets the help he needs. He understands that he made an error and he doesn't repeat it. But then you
Hmm.
have Bob number two, or even Sally number two, because we've learned that men are being in domestic violence as much as women now. But then we find these people that uh, are repeat offenders, if you will. They repeat it over and over and over. The abuse goes over the globe. It goes in different states. So can I've been in domestic violence, so I know kind of, some of the things that I went through. But can you help somebody out there who really doesn't understand what domestic violence is?
Yes. See, most people think domestic violence is just physical.
That's right.
It has to start somewhere. And it starts by that person isolating you, being controlling. And once they see they can isolate you from your family and your friends, and then they see, oh, okay, I can control. Let me go to the next step. I
Mhm.
can control. Then they start the controlling factor. They're going to control your every movement, even time you to where how long it should take you to get from. Just say if you go to the grocery store, you should be in the grocery store no more than maybe 30 minutes. So you
Mhm.
should be back home within maybe 50 minutes, 10 minutes there, 30 minutes doing the grocery shopping, and then 10 minutes back home. Trust me, it happens. I have had that to happen to me. But it is also verbal.
Mm.
Now, even though
Yes.
physical can do the ultimate, but verbal, emotional, that stays with you forever. And that's and in that case,
That's right.
you still need to get help. Once you get out of that situation, you need to get help. But there's spiritual. Some people don't think that there's spiritual
Yes.
abuse, but yes, there's financial abuse. They will try to hold that purse on you, however they
Come on
can.
now.
And that's their way again of controlling you.
That's
So
right.
there are factors, but the one that most people speak out the most is about physical. But in order, what I want people to understand, when you get to the physical and you know that's not where you want to be, then what you need to do is see how you can diffuse it and then get an exit strategy so that you can get away from that. Don't just abruptly leave, because some people say, oh, as soon as
Right.
that happens, you leave. No, you got to take good precautions because you just never know what may happen.
Mm-hmm. That is so, and see, that's a good point, Dr. Peters. I think, I'm glad I wanted you to break it down, because a lot of times people, when I say, when I talk about my past, and I say, well, it wasn't the physical scars that
Mhm.
that lasted forever. It was what happened up here. It was what the emotions were. Like you said, timing me how long I was to go somewhere, or even you're going to fix and this may sound crazy, but it was for me. You're going to fix this meal every day. You're going to follow these instructions every day. Like I had no mindset of my own, right? And then people don't understand that sometimes people use domestic violence, like you said, they'll use it in a different way, where they would say, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then our kids ain't gonna do X, Y, Z, or I'm gonna take the kids. There's so many different forms of domestic violence that
It is.
people are not really looking at. And like you said, financial. I'm gonna hold the bank card. You can't have the bank card. Or even as far as going into the bank and taking your name off and putting their name on. There's so many different things. That's what you laughing because there's a lot of things that you and I have talked about over the years with this. But it's a lot of different ways that people don't
Mhm.
look at it. But tonight we want to talk about those secret places that
Yeah.
people don't think about why domestic violence may be. And that's
Mhm.
the part that really gets me, is that sometimes what is very, very visible to us, we
Mhm.
overlook because we say, well, we're at X, Y, and Z. You
Right.
can be working in social service, which I was at the time. I was working in social services, and nobody even knew the behind the scenes because of the mask that I wore for that period of time of my life. Well, they didn't even recognize that I was going through it. But sometimes the the flags are there. So
Mhm.
tonight, Dr. Peters, I want you to get into talking about those places that we don't want to talk about that domestic violence is.
Those places like church,
Oh, that girl, Dr. Peters, you talk about there's domestic violence in the church house.
of course, that's domestic violence everywhere. But again, that's very um hush hush. People don't like to talk about it all the time. And I get it. In some ways I do get it. In some ways, most ways I don't. The reason being is that, especially when it's at church, because that's where you should be safe at for the most part.
Mm,
But
mm,
if you're not safe at church, then if you're not safe at home, where is you safe at? Where are you safe at? Then of course I'm even go here. It's on the job as well.
yes, it
So
is.
so abuse happens in many places, but when it does, we need to know how to handle it. I've been in different places. I've seen it at church. I've seen it, you know, in different organizations, but no one wants to talk about it. Why? Because that's going to put a nasty taste on the church or that organization. But it's not about the church or that organization. It's about what's right and what's wrong.
Right.
And see, many people don't want to do it. They want to do what? Cover it up. And I've come to a place in my life, especially after God brought me through all that I went through, I refuse. It took me to start talking because I'm just this
Woo.
quiet shy country girl that just wants to be this introvert that I am and not say nothing.
Yes.
But
Yes.
he kept pulling me, and I was like, okay, I don't want nobody to know my story, but I have to. I have to share,
Yes.
to do my part and making sure that if I can help someone, that because when I went through mine, all this you hear about domestic violence was not in place. Social media was
That's
not in place.
right.
So whoever's going through it right now, they have they have no reason to say that they don't have no one to contact, because you do. You have the
Yeah.
hotline, and then you have too many organizations that post all day long on social media.
That's right.
You know,
That's
it's a,
right. That's right.
and so there's no reason. And then not just social media, there's many of us not just maybe talk about it on social media, but I've gone to a college to speak about it, different organizations, different schools. So it's out there, so people should know, okay, but they're afraid.
That's it.
But it,
Well,
being
Dr.
a,
Wait,
go ahead.
would you mind sharing a part of your story about your actual journey into it,
To my
or through
into
it, or past it, and we overcome it?
now mine started, it did start with isolation first, truly isolation. I came from one state to another state. I didn't have any family. And so anything that happened, of course, they didn't know unless I said something and I was told not to talk. Okay. So I was being that obedient woman that I was supposed to be. Then it started. I mean, I couldn't get a job. He wouldn't allow me to finish college. Um, I couldn't have any friends. So I was alone and lonely.
Mm,
Um, I was abused in every way. There's even one time on the weekends, different weekends, we would go to different friends' house, or they'll come to our house. Every weekend is a different, I say friend, but there are people he deal with that became, I guess you can say, socials of mine. And one night, one Saturday night, we was at this one couple's house, about an hour or so away from our home. And after leaving there, we about 10 minutes from home. He pulled over. This is 2 something in the morning. He pulled over. He struck me a few times and then put me out on the freeway. He's drunk and driving with my 3 babies. It took me a long time to get home because I had to fight my, because even at 2 a.m. in the morning, the freeway was still kind of busy. So I had to fight my way off of one side of the freeway to get to the other side of the freeway, then get to the theater, and then try to make my way on to home. So that was scary and that was hard. But because he had my babies, that
yes.
was my determination.
Yes.
Because at one point I was like, let me just lay here and let whatever happens, happens. But I had to realize, no, he got your babies. Not
Right.
our babies, but my babies, even though they're ours, but they were mine. And so I fought my way home. And the next morning, when he realized that I was there, before the kids woke up, he did some things. And I was like, Lord, why? 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 Why?
Mm,
And, but I had to start making a plan. It took
that
me too, I'm going to say too long, but it took me longer than I expected to get out.
right.
I could have gotten out before I did. All I had to do was make a phone call. My parents didn't know what was going on until I filed for divorce, and I called them, and they thought we were happy because I knew how to be happy because he,
They teach
because
us well, don't they?
hmm. So So um, once I finally did my plan, like I said, it took years, and I vowed if I ever left, I was never going back
I know
again.
that's right.
It took me years. When I finally said no, it was 20, little over 20, almost 21 years. But I never went back, and I left peace, joy, happiness, and
Wow.
love.
Wow.
Of Because by the time I left, I had already mentally, I'd already left the marriage.
Right.
I had been left the marriage like a decade before then. I was just existing, even the
Right.
more so that I can do what I needed to do to get out and be
That
able to,
part.
right. And I did, but I know if I made that call before then, I could have had my own back home, but I didn't want to go back home to Louisiana. I did not want to go back to Louisiana. And I did not want to, I wanted
Mm.
to be my own rescue. I didn't
That
want, I didn't want it to be done because if somebody else do it for me,
that
and
part.
I don't think it would have, my life would have turned out the way I actually would have wanted. It wouldn't have been mine again, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, even though I have, my parents are deceased, they were the best parents. They would give me the world. And people was like, well, why didn't you call them? I have a daddy and two brothers.
That's
If
right.
I was being abused the way I was being abused, oh,
Child.
from home to here would be no problem for them to come. But they ain't been in no trouble. So I was like, no, this is my battle to fight. And I'm going to fight it. But once I did tell them, of course, they kept checking in, make sure I was cool. They even came out here. Are you good? I'm good. I'm
Right.
free. I'm
Right.
good. Now, he made it hard in the divorce. But like I told my lawyer, all I want is my freedom. I don't want nothing.
That part.
I just want to be free to be Clara.
So, so Dr. Peters, let me ask, I hate to interrupt you. You just, I love because the way you share your story is so compelling. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people really realize, like, you've said this repeatedly, the peace that you get, right? I remember when at one point when my situation was in the transition, right? I
Mm-hmm.
remember that when they the last time they walked out the door, because they walked out the door, it was like I could feel this. It's hard to explain that overwhelming peace that you get. It's like when you really know that it's finished, there is no return of the person that's doing that's hurting us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you can't explain it. It's so like the windows open and all of the air came back into us, right?
Exactly.
And I remember one of my daughters coming down the steps and saying, is he gone? Can we watch TV now? And somebody
Mm-hmm.
would say, well, what do you mean? Well, when you're in isolation, you can't open the blinds, you can't open the door.
Mm-hmm.
You and whoever that's involved in the home has to
Mm-hmm.
go to bed at a certain time so that they can have whatever they want. Then you have to make sure that you have followed all of the instructions, because if you don't follow all of the instructions when everybody else is asleep, that's when the torture happens. And like you
Right.
said, sometimes it's like you're sitting across the dinner table and the torture is starting then, because they're waiting for whatever to leave, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
waiting for their atmosphere to change so they can. It's like they change. We have like Clark Kent turns into Superman. Well, what about Clark Kent turning into the ugly monster on Freddy Krueger? I mean, and people don't understand, and they'll say why, because you're talking about several things. They
Mm-hmm.
talk about why did you stay so long in it? Well, there was a lot of reasons. When you have children, that's the main reason. But when you
Mm-hmm.
have other things in addition to that, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be the one that everybody looks at you because they're not going to understand why you stayed.
Right.
You don't want, then you think about, well, how am I going to make it without that person's income? You think about all of these other things that happen, but when and you get to a point where you realize that it is, you still got to do it, you still got to go into all of that. But when
Yeah.
you get everything lined up, and we encourage, I think, Dr. Peters, I can speak for me and you both. We encourage those men and women that are going through this to have a plan.
Right.
Talk to somebody and get a plan of how to remove yourself from the situation, because some situations are not as cut and dry as others, right? I mean, I
Exactly.
was in it for 7 years. So I mean, it was a process, because you don't know if that person has given you reason to fear your life or someone else's life. You have to know how to remove yourself
Right.
without it becoming something else. And I think that's a good thing that you continue to share that, because some people say, well, you just need to get up and go. Well, if you
Yeah.
haven't walked in these shoes, you need to
I
be
hate.
cautious.
I'm sorry. I
No, no,
hate
no,
people
no.
when they go there, and I hate the word hate, but I really hate when people go there, because if you've never been in the situation, you can't say what you would do. You really can't. I never. First of all, don't nobody go into a relationship thinking they're gonna be abused. So that's on your mind. So of course that's not on your mind, and you never even dealt with that. So you have to realize, okay, let me walk this out. Let me figure this out and pray. But like with me, and and I walked some other people through it. I prayed and I waited for the sign from God, but I also had to do action. So you
Come
you
on
just
now. That's it.
in life, no matter
That's
where you at in
it.
your life, what you're going through. If you're gonna pray, you still have to do some action behind it, because He's not just gonna bring you to it or through it if you're not doing something to help Him, show Him that, okay, well, let me help you with this.
That's it.
But once I got that from Him, and most importantly, got the strength to know
Come
that
on.
I can do this. Because see, I got with
That's
my
it.
my ex as a teenager, so all I knew
Yeah.
was, I didn't know anything else. So once I got that I needed, and I figured some things out, I said, okay, not saying everything went smoothly in the way I wanted to do, want it to be, but I was
Yes.
in peace and not in pieces. That's the
Come
main
on
thing
now.
that I
That's
tell people.
it.
I was in peace and not in pieces. I was so
Yes.
broken pieces to where, let me just go here. This is
Come
a
on.
piece
Come
of
on,
paper.
Dr. Peters.
My body. This is my body. I was in so many broken pieces to where I just had to finally say, okay, Lord, just put me back together and give me the peace that I need. And when He did, one thing I had to realize, I can't invite that back into my life.
Mm-mm.
He won't
Mm-mm.
even allow it to come into my life. And I'm thankful. But again, I always stress to people, make sure you don't do anything haste, because if you do something haste, what's going to happen? Nothing good.
Nothing
Nothing.
good.
You got to make sure you do it calm, cool, and collective, and a clear mind,
Yeah.
with a good plan in hand. Now, along the way, your plan may have to be tweaked,
Come
but
on now.
just do have a plan. And as you go along the way, tweak it accordingly. But just don't have a plan. Don't just jump and the sea and you don't know what's gonna go next.
That's right. That's
You can't
right.
do, because it's not gonna be good for you. And if you have children, it's definitely not gonna be good for them
That's right.
at all.
And see, that's the thing, Dr. Peters. I think if we can be real, if people would just be real honest, because I'm sitting here looking at, and I'm sure there's people that are watching behind the scenes, if
Mhm.
you will, because they don't want. And I'm not saying this to offend anyone, because if you're watching and you're gaining the knowledge, that's what we want. We want you to gain knowledge and wisdom. So if you're behind the scenes watching because you're in the situation and you
Mhm.
have to, we get it. But this is the thing. What about those people, Dr. Jefferson? Okay, let me just, I'm looking at Stephanie Jefferson is out there. Okay, let me just go out there. Look, Dr. Peters, see, this subject right here. So anything that can take some mind. But Stephanie Jefferson, ladies, Stephanie Jefferson is in the house with us on tonight. Thank you so much for joining. To those of you that are watching out there in social media land, thank you for being a part. Please continue to share and care and like for us. We know you're out there. We know that tonight is not by accident that we're talking about this. It has nothing to do with the month of October. It has to do that we're talking about life in general, and we want to help people get to that next level. So Dr. Peters, look, check this out, Dr. Clara. This is the thing. Why does it appear that people do not understand the concept that we that have survived it? We know what it's like. We had to get to a point where we said, okay, we're through, we're done. Let's make a plan. Let's get out of it. Let's stick to it. But there are some that have gotten out of it. Let me see. Raise my hand. Gotten out of it. But then you see, you get involved again, and it's not clear what you saw, because the first time you saw it, you knew it automatically. You know what the little ugly demon looked like. You can identify it, right? So what is it that? Because we're going to touch on a lot of things in this 45-minute, y'all. So just get ready. So thank you, Stephanie. It's part of it's fear. But what takes some of us back to it with a different person, and then the light bulb goes out? Shouldn't we be able to see some things because we have gone through it the first time? What would you say causes us to overlook the obvious?
Well, some people feel as though that's the only way they feel loved.
Come on there, Dr. Peters. I knew you was gonna bring it to the real. Come on.
Some women feel like they're loved, but then it's the type of person. Like, I had this lady. She came to me years ago. She said, I know this crazy for me to be coming to you because I'm like 20 years older than you. She said, but baby, why is it that I keep getting the same old man? I said, because you have a preference. At that man, you look at his build, you look at his swag, you look at all of that, and that's what you go for. And you know that undertone, you know his spirit, you know his aura, you know it. To my yes, but I said, there's no but to it.
Ain't no but to it.
We like what we like, true enough, but do you love you more? Do you love you more? Because see, to me, a person that you know that he's just like that you came out of. So why are you going to keep going back to it, and then you want to later cry about it? No, you did it to yourself. I'm going to go here. Like, sometimes I share, and you may have heard me say this, I had to forgive myself for the abuse. Reason being, when he first started it, that was on him. But as it continued, I allowed it.
Come on now, Dr. Peters. Let's be real. That's it. That's real.
I allowed it, but I didn't remove myself from it. So evidently it was making it seem as though it was okay. So once I had to forgive me. Once I forgave me for what I allowed, then I forgave him and worked on my healing. There's no way another man can step to me with those type of what are his characteristics or the aura of him being an aggressor. I was watching something the other day, and this man, he said that he would never marry a woman that makes more money than him. And he was asked why. He said, because I like to be in control. I can't have that. You're more than welcome to make more money than me, but you would never control me.
Come on now.
We didn't, excuse me. We wasn't, excuse me, my allergies.
You're fine. You need to get some water?
I'm going to get some. We wasn't put here to be controlled.
Come on now. I'm going to take a quick break and let Dr. Peters get some water, because I want you guys to understand that y'all got to stick with us on tonight, because we talk about some real life. are back. And for those of you that are tuning in or watching behind the scenes, you are watching Uncensored Conversation with Victoria, and my super amazing guest on tonight is Dr. Clara Peters. She is our domestic violence advocate on tonight, and we're bringing it to you all the way live.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's all the way live. So, Dr. Peters, let me ask you a question. Do we left and you talked about how, there's different things that causes us to go into this area, and then Lady Jefferson has also been giving us some things, fear, loneliness, financial, sometimes we have poor self-esteem. And like you said, sometimes, we set our own self up because we okay, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna use this example, Dr. Reeves. Sometimes we get out of one situation and we walk in, we meet Joker number two. Joker number two has a little better swagger with words, but then you find out Joker number two got the same issue. And we think sometimes that we have become an expert and we know how to fix this one because we couldn't fix the first one. Come on, Dr. Peters, help me now. Why do we think we can fix someone that has a condition, we're going to say mental condition. We're going to say they have some issues because sometimes ain't nothing wrong with them. They just mean as ham sandwiches. But because Dr. Peters is an elder, I'm trying to be nice. Now, Dr. Peters, you already know me. But what makes us think that as women, we're born to be fixers. I get that part. But what is it that is really behind the scenes that makes us think if we can fix Joker number one, how we think we're going to fix Joker number two?
There's some women that think that they can just be that fixture. And it could be for a number of reasons on her part, of the reason why she wants to fix him. That may be her excuse to have a project. Just to say,
project.
I was able to, get him. He came to me this way, but I fixed him up. I got him the way he needs to be so that he can be that man that he's supposed to be. But there's no way that we can fix someone. I tell women all the time, if you know that man, if you with somebody and you know that he has some issues and you really love him and want to be with him, tell him to get help. And if he don't want to get help, just leave him and let him get the help or do whatever he needs to do. But if it's meant to be, he'll do what he's supposed to do in order for you all to be together. Because you want your peace. You don't want to just be to where it's always something. You walking around your own home tiptoeing, being careful with the words that you say or the move that you make, just whatever. Who should live that way?
That's it.
No one should live that way. And if a woman thinks that she can really take on a project, I call it a project. If she feels as though that she can take on and fix it, no, he needs to fix himself. He needs, because there's something deep down within him. He needs some counseling. He needs to get to the root of what's causing him. And then, I've heard some people say, well, maybe I'm going to go here.
Go ahead, go there.
It's something that you just said too. Maybe it's a woman that have low self-esteem. There was nothing low self-esteem about me at all. Period. That was not my case.
Come on now, me.
But we don't have long enough for me to go through every little trinket when it comes to my story of why it took me as long as it did for me to leave. Well, I'm gonna go here. Right when I was getting ready to the first time, found out I was pregnant. I wasn't working.
Oh wow.
I had no income.
I know that one.
So what was I gonna do? So I was like,
right.
Okay, let me stay. So I did. I regret staying for so many reasons. Yes. But at the end of the day, like right now, I have no regrets. And the reason being is that I got out in my right mind. My kids are all grown and they enjoying life, and I'm just ecstatic with that. Now, if it was any other kind of way, a negative, then I might not be as happy as I am. But
Come on now. Tell the truth, Dr. Peters. Break it to us. Tell the truth.
when you in a situation, this is one thing that I wanted the women to know, just like I did. As you prepare your exit plan, prepare your
Come on.
prepare your mind for the mental you getting out, and put on every armor of God there is that you need to put on the armor of God, and be bold. Be
Come
bold
on.
in who you are. Be bold in what you want. Don't stand down and say, you know what? Okay, I'm be that submissive. I was that submissive person. There's
Girl.
nothing wrong with being submissive. But but what people fail to realize, yes, the woman's supposed to be submissive, but the man is too.
Shit. Come on.
That's a whole that's a whole
Oof.
other conversation. But we have to
Ooh.
it's so much I want to say, but I'm
You
trying to
got
be
all night, Dr. Peters. You have no restraints here, as you know.
yeah. But one thing that I have to tell the ladies and men, because I've talked to men that has been abused as well, is to just love you. When you
Love you.
get to a place to where you're like, okay, well, why me, Lord? Why this happening to me? Don't ask no why. Just fall in love with you. Just
Mm,
get in
mm.
tune with who you are, so that when you come up out of that, yeah, you're gonna be still a little broken, because you're not gonna come out of it immediately being
That's right.
fixed. No, if anybody say they're coming out of anything like that and you already fixed, they're lying.
Yep.
That
You're gonna
they
be
just
back
want to
in it.
cover it up, but
Yep.
they're lying.
That's it. That's it.
But you have to be honest with yourself. If
That's
you're
true.
not honest with yourself, you're never going to be truly healed. You're never going to be truly you. I had to find my way back to Clara, not the
Come on
not
now. That's it.
not his Clara. And I didn't realize that until something happened, and my son stepped in and he said, look, she's not your Clara.
Ooh.
She's not your Clara no more.
Oh
And that was
wow.
and I was like, that's it. You gotta be you.
You
You
gotta
gotta
be
take
you.
your power back and be
Uh oh. Come on.
that person that God has created you to be. Be your voice.
Hmm. Be your best voice. Come
Your,
on now.
yes, be your best voice, but be your voice.
That's it.
It
That's it.
don't know me. Like when they finally, when I say know me, I mainly talk about people back home.
You're
To
right.
hear I have been living out in Texas, being abused, they were shocked.
Girl.
They were really, really shocked. But by God's grace, I don't look like the hell I went through.
Come on, Dr. Peters. You better. If you don't come up in this house and be real, this is the. But see, Dr. Peters, that's what it is. I think, I don't know about. Well, I know you had share some things, and we're gonna get into that part in just a little bit. But I think what surprises some people when they finally hear us talk, and this is what I had to say about myself when I finally came out and talked about it publicly in the social media realm, if you will, was everybody said, well, but you married a great guy and you dated the most amazing man in the world, and he's so quiet and he's so big, and you were just, well, you know what? We were some good actresses at the time. I mean, because you think about it, when you are in the situation, you have to be a certain kind of person in front of the abuser, because if you don't, when you get back home or wherever you're going, it's going to be double duty. And who wants to go through that, right? And sometimes we didn't do anything, and we had to deal with the shenanigans. I'm trying to be so political right now. We had to deal with the ish at that point. We did. But now and I said, why didn't you say anything then? We didn't say anything then because some of the people that we would have told wouldn't have believed us, first of all. Well, where I was from, they wouldn't have believed it. Because like you said, we were already, we were these tough kids, we were these tough broads, we were these tough chickens, and we nobody would have expected us to go through it. But we did it, right? But then there comes that place where you say, I've had enough. But then when people start looking at you and you start saying, they say, why didn't you talk about it? Well, don't worry about why I didn't talk about it then. Listen to my story and you'll understand it. I think sometimes people, I have a friend of mine, and she said she was trying to explain, and I was hoping that person was going to be on tonight so she could, hear us talking. But there was a time that she told me, she said she was dating again. And she said she tried to explain it to the new person. And the person said, well, some of y'all stay in it because y'all like it. And she said, I didn't like it. I just didn't have a choice at the time. I was making it work to get out. And so when she said, can you talk to him? I said, oh, girl, bye. Put them on the telephone because I got a few choice words. Because either you are an abuser undercover, because again, we overlook the ones that don't put their hands on us, but the ones that talk the junk to us. After my abuser realized that he couldn't put his hands on me anymore because that didn't work, he started the mental stuff, the verbal stuff. Yeah. And those things are what was harder to deal with than the physical. There's certain things that I don't tolerate physically anymore. Like, you can't play fighting with me. Right. You want to play fight with who? You better get a video game, because it's not going to happen with me, right? And so even somebody putting their hands, like, pretending to, grab, no, don't even go for the throat, because you're going to get cut physically. I'm telling you, you're going to get cut, because when you have that place in your life that you have gotten past it, there's certain things that you can verbalize now, because it's a process. Everything that we have gone through in domestic violence has brought us to this place that we can tell you the process that we saw, so that you know that you're not crazy in what you're thinking.
Exactly.
Because people think we're crazy until you start telling them, oh, honey, you're not crazy. This is real life. This is what you had to go through.
Right. I can remember, like, when I started fighting for me in a way that I had not fighting for me before. And this was a few years before I filed for divorce. We always celebrate his birthday. Always. Every year. Some kind of way. It was,
Lord have mercy.
And this one year, well, first of all, let me go back. I had to fight my way after about 10 years or so. There you go. The enemy tried to stop me from talking.
That's all right.
Excuse me.
We'll take a quick break and let Dr. Peters have a moment.
Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
We are for those of you that are watching, we are with our guest on tonight, the advocate herself, the lady that can walk us through this process on a different level. My guest tonight is the lady herself, Dr. Clara L. Peters is in the house, our domestic violence advocate and speaker are out on this subject so freely and directly to those of you that can watch and pay attention. And Dr. Peters, I got to say this. I am really surprised. I'm surprised and I'm not surprised. Because typically the hotline would be blowing up. But you know what that tells me? Is that there are a lot of people that are afraid to hear about this for a lot of reasons. First, they don't want to be called out. Second, they don't know how to deal with it. And thirdly, some people are just afraid. So to those of you that will watch this later, when you are in a safe place, because that could be it too, you're not in a safe place to watch. And we definitely understand that. We do not want, because, I got a message that, people saying, well, it's probably some people that are afraid to watch because they're in the room with their abuser. We understand that. We are only here tonight to help you understand that when you are in a safe place and you can watch this video, to make sure you do, and then follow up and do what you have to do in order to take safety measures for yourself. We've posted the domestic violence hotline so that you can call that hotline number. They will contact you for assistance. Make sure you always keeping some kind of dialogue or documenting different things. Have your journals. Keep stuff in a journal. Yeah, I'm a big journaler. I mean, make sure that and these are things that we're talking about that can help you make your plan of escape. Have a journal written down of the things that have happened. Take pictures of what your abuser has done, said, or what have you. Make sure you have that information. We're telling you tonight, Dr. Peters has given us some really good nuggets of how we handle some things right now and how we can develop some things. Dr. Peters, I want to get into this part of the conversation. We've been given a lot.
Wait,
yes.
To add on to what you just said. So, excuse me.
No.
And if you have called the police and made a report, do not, under no circumstances, drop that case. And make sure you write down that case number. Keep record of any and all things. And if, for whatever reason, you do decide to drop that case, still keep that number. But I pray that you don't. I pray that you don't.
And that was the next thing I was going to ask you, Dr. Peters, because I know there were certain things that my attorney was, gave me as an attorney looking at, divorce or what have you. But there are other things that and you just gave a few things just then, So my next question was, what can we tell the people? Because again, men and women out there are being abused. You just told them that make sure you keep documents. You make sure you keep the case number. I'm also going to add to that, if you have a protective order, make sure that your protective order is always updated. Do not let it go past a time frame. You got that. You got to renew it before it's passed. I mean, guys, because when you go back into the court system to get it reestablished, it's a whole heck of a lot more of a pain. Because then they say, well, why did you let it go? And you're like, well, I forgot. No, you don't forget. So make sure you keep updated on your information. But Dr. Peters, before we get into the other part of the topic, what other things would you recommend making sure that everyone that is going through this, and to those of you that were a part of our domestic violence conference, not this year but last year, and you recall we had a panelist at the time. His name was Tommy. We referred to him as Tommy because he came on our domestic violence conference, and he gave us nuggets. He told about his specific situation. He has later passed. To those of you who do not know that, but Tommy did pass shortly after our domestic violence conference, and so we still stay in touch with his family. Dr. Peters, his brother continues to talk about all of the ones that were part of that conference. But the main thing that you just mentioned, keeping that information, that was one of the key things that helped Tommy's case against his abuser. It may have been his last final thing
Mhm.
that he released, if you will, but it was because of that information that Tommy had is what kept his case open,
Right.
and his abusers are now behind
I
bars.
thank.
So they didn't just give them a slap on the wrist. They didn't just tell them, "Oh, well, you did this," because it can get really nasty in the abuse arena. They can, there's things that people do that are unthinkable, but because of the information that Tommy had kept, the records, the pictures, the phone calls, all of that, even after he had passed, is what kept his child set in safe arena. It kept his child from being with the abuser. And again, the abusers, Dr. Peters, and to those that have been with the conference, and they are all now behind bars, from the Rudy to the Tootie. They all, mother, father, the daughter, uncle, and the cousins are now all behind bars. So it is important that you keep this information. So Dr. Peters, help us a little bit with that, just a few minutes. And then I want you to go into what happens behind the scenes of the church.
Well, first I want to say, forgive me for the coughing. My
No,
allergy is
you are
just.
fine. You are fine.
But you know what? I have been going good for almost 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then it wants to keep.
Yes.
But anyway, um, let me go back to Tommy. Listening to him share on last year, and then to hear what happened, that because you could tell he was kind of weak when we was on that broke my heart to a core because he didn't deserve that.
Did not.
But he got the last say. Even though
Yes,
he's
he
not
did.
here, he got the last say, and his child is safe. His child is,
Yes.
so, and
Yes.
it was good that he kept good records, pictures, notes. So if
Yes.
anybody's listening, do keep your records and do
Yes.
not. I had someone to contact me during the pandemic, during the shutdown. And the man's family was wanting her to stop and just dropping charges. I said, why
Mm-hmm.
would she said, well, they're nice people and da 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 da. I said, no, they may be nice people, but what did
Right.
he do to you? What did he do to you?
That part. That
So
part.
no, you don't drop the charges. If it was bad enough for you to call the cops and press charges, don't do it,
That's it.
because
That's
all this is it's going to happen again.
because
So no,
I'm sorry, Dr. Peters, but the interesting thing was, after Tommy's passing, and we can just give y'all a little bit, after the conference, Tommy was ambushed and severely beaten, that put
yeah,
him into a comatose state, and he later passed. That's just the icing. That's not the whole cake. But
right,
one of the things that was interesting to me, after all of that had happened, and they went to the family and said, well, can we go ahead and drop the case now? Because he's not here to speak on his behalf. And I thank God for his attorney, and I wish I could say his name, but of course, because the records are sealed, but some of the information is sealed. I am thankful for who was representing his family, Tommy and Tommy's family, because what actually ended up them saying, no, we're not going to stop.
mm-hmm.
No, because there is another person that is at risk. That was the child. Because
Right.
had they dropped the case, the child would have been put back into the abuser's hands.
Exactly.
But because of the case, because that it went as far as it did go, that is the reason why the records, he had voicemail, he had so much information, and that was what protected his case and saw it through even after his demise. So people, Dr. Peters has said it, and I'm going to repeat it. Do not stop your cases. Do not stop the process that you're in. Keep those public announcements open. Keep those people aware of what you need to take care of, but seek out people that can really guide you in this
Right.
process. And Dr. Peters, I thank you so much for continuing to be an advocate for domestic violence, and not just, again, talking it, but baby, you walk it every day. And you have been into more arenas talking about it. I can remember one picture I saw on my old Facebook page where you were in this room and you had on this beautiful purple dress, and you were surrounded by, I can't tell you how many people. I say, I've been watching you, Dr. Pence. But you was in this arena, and you can tell that, and you was from the top to the bottom. You was in it, but you could tell that you walked in there with a purpose, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you was a keynote speaker at that event, and you walked in there with your guns, and people were waiting to hear you. So we're not just having anybody talk about domestic violence, but we have somebody who is a true advocate. And again, I appreciate you and thank you for continuing to drive
Thank,
the force behind it. So, Dr.
thank you.
Peters, can you help us for a few minutes? I know I'm gonna have to bring you back. I already know that we're gonna have to bring you back, but can you help us understand what's going on behind the scenes? What's the real story, Dr. Peters? What is it that behind the scenes that people don't want to talk about? I mean, you've indicated, people don't know your connection to the person, because I say this all the time, from the pulpit to the corner store. So can you help me help people understand that it happens from the pulpit to the corner store, that with their abusers.
It does. It does. But I'm gonna say this first. You all see me with the purple on, the purple lips. Purple is the color of domestic violence. So
It
I
is.
do wear purple a lot. And crazy as it may be, well, I don't say crazy
She
anymore,
right.
but it starts up conversation. I've had people of
Don't it?
other, I've had men of other races stop me and ask me, "You look gorgeous, but what's up with the purple lips?"
Yes. You
Because I have
confused the
color, but I have on purple lips. And I would share with them. And one guy, he kind of broke down. So I would put out there on my Facebook, on my social media, ladies, speak up and speak out and wear your purple, even if you just wear your purple lips, because it's going to bring about a conversation. Because
it's
it
a
always
conversation.
about a conversation. And most times when I'm speaking, yes, I'm gonna have on something that's gonna be purple, if not my whole outfit, but definitely my lips and maybe my necklace.
From the Rudy,
But
you was one in front of Rudy to the Tootie in that event, though, Dr. Peters. I mean, you had the hat. I was like, look at Rudy.
I have to think about what you're talking about. I kind of know, but I'm gonna have to really think. But to ask your question, I believe it's all about control. It's all about control. I was the executive pastor at this church, and ooh,
Phew.
the first lady to the bishop, she was praying and singing and just ushering in the Holy Spirit. And when I tell you, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, oh gosh. And then he walked out there and said, "When you see me coming out, you go sit down." But she's still ushering in the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And she looked at me and I looked at her, and she came and sat on the first because I was sitting on the first row. She came and sat beside me and she grabbed my hand. She said, "Please, Pastor, don't leave me." I said, "I can't stay. I can't do it."
Wow.
Not because, I'm already, I can't because I couldn't. I just couldn't. I said,
Right.
"I'll talk to you later today, but I can't stay here right now." And
Wow.
I have saw it before, but that the way he did it that day, I was like, nah, I
Mm.
can't. I can't. So she and I met up and we had a conversation. It's all about control. It's all about wanting it their way. Period. No matter how it may look to someone else, but you do what I say, when I say it, and how I say it. And that's not the way it's supposed to be at all.
Mm.
So for me to again to not allow my peace to be disturbed, I had to say, you know what? I'm gonna stay here for a little while longer. And it wasn't long because my overseer was like, "Can you please?" For him and his family, I stayed a little bit longer. And whenever they needed me, I came back. But I had to because my mind wouldn't allow me to stay in a place to where I saw someone doing that and being in bondage.
And being in that, what is disturbing to me is, well, there's a lot of things that disturb me about the mess about, but what disturbs me about that example, if you will, that you gave as to where the abuser were, or where the abuser, what position the abuser had,
Mm-hmm.
and how much control that person did have. And then you have to wonder, what are these abusers that are being allowed to be abusers, if you will, what are
Mm-hmm.
they truly teaching other people, if you
It's-
will, to have control? Because at that level, they're saying, you see what you see how I keep them in check.
mhm.
At that level, you're
Exactly.
you're teaching it now to somebody else.
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
So that's
As
that is a sick place in itself,
it
that
is, and
it continues to be. I'm sorry.
thankfully she ended up getting out.
See, but see, this is the thing. It took a Dr. Clara Peters in her life, though,
Yeah.
because to hear you give the direction to make that person understand this is serious, and your life is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how many of us have watched the movie. If you haven't, I remember watching Farrah Fawcett in The Burning Bed.
Right.
Child, whoo, child. Dr. Peters, all I could say was, I wish I had me some matches in a gas can at during my time, because hey, we could have talked about it. But if somebody's not in their life like you, we have to be that voice openly,
Mm-hmm.
social media, in churches, in community events. We have to speak out, because if we don't, it's going to continue.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
I wish I would find out one of my grandsons is hitting. Oh, child. Look, whew. I mean, just the thought of somebody having that much control, and that's dwindling down to other
Mhm.
people that they're talking to. That's
Right.
serious. That's a place that we don't want anybody to get into, while they control somebody else's mind, that this is the proper thing to do.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm like you because see, I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, hold up. You know that I don't allow this. Period. So hey, you need to check yourself because we don't allow that. Not. But I do not do that. I can, sometimes I have a 23-year-old granddaughter, and she and I
Oh,
went one time. She and I went to a movie. One of the times we went to the movie, what to say, we came upon this guy with this young lady, and he had got her like this in the parking lot. And my grandbaby was like, "Gammon, what you gonna do?" I said, "Nothing." And she really couldn't wrap her mind about why I couldn't do anything. And I told her, I said, baby, there's a time and a place for everything. I said, now, if you wasn't with me, I might have would have said something. But if he would have had a piece on him and he put
Mm.
it out, I said, I got to protect you. You're my first priority.
Yep. Yep.
But I am that person that since I've came up out of mine, I've, I've
Dr. Peters. Woo, child.
it's this lady I met through my children when they was in elementary. She knew my story. She came running and I was like, what's going on? I said, okay, come on. I'll follow you to your house. I'm right here with him. And I was like, when I left, I was like, girl, you done grew some balls. My tolerance is null and void. It's really null and void. Like right now, okay, I'm single. And people will ask me, well, why are you still single? Because I'm not settling. I can have a man. That's not the issue.
Hello.
That is
Hello.
the issue. I can have that man. I mean, have a man, but I want the man that he has for me.
Come on now.
And if that means me being single for however many years, then I would just be single for all of those however many years.
That's
because
right.
I love you more, you know.
Yes.
And that's what I want a lot of women to get to, a place to just loving them, not just loving you, but liking you. And there's a difference between loving and liking. And some people didn't understand me when I first said that. I said, you'll get it if you think about it for a while. But I want the women and men to just love themselves. Take yourself on dates, fall in love with you.
Come on now.
You know, not
That
just
part.
find a voice, but just go back to when this first started and learn you all over again.
That's it.
So that as you go in life, you're definitely you're gonna build a solid foundation within you to where when that person step to you again, you're gonna be okay to stand 10 toes down and be like, okay, I got this. Because see, I'm gonna be able to talk to him in a way to where he's gonna know I'm not that woman or that man that you can control. I'm not that person.
I am not that person.
And not give in. A lot of times we give in to just to please someone. If that person is meant to be with you, they would not have you bending for them. And you may have seen me post and say before, stop bending for everyone else.
Yes, you have. You said it.
Stop bending. Who's bending for you?
Who? Dr. Peters, come on there and tell it. Who's bending for you? Who's bending? Who's bending?
Partly, love is not supposed to hurt.
It is not supposed to hurt.
Don't tell me you love me, but yet you cussing me out and calling me all kind of names. Don't say you love me, but you're gonna take my transportation away and my finance. Don't tell me you love me, but you're gonna do all these. No, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
That is not love.
At all.
That's not love.
And when it get to, I'm gonna share this. Like when we moved here, I was supposed to finish college, but he wouldn't let me. So about maybe 15 years later, I decided, okay, I'm gonna enroll back in school. So it's one night a week for a couple of hours. One night he came home from work and I came home from school, and we got into a big thing. And it exploded to the point to where he decided he was gonna leave. So he left me. No transportation. He left me with no transportation, nada. Took all the vehicles. Following week came by. The next week came when it's time for me to go to school. He called and he asked where I was at. And my daughter told me, you know where she at on Tuesday nights? Well, how did she go? She said, why do you want to know?
Oh, hello. What you want to know for?
He came back home. Yeah, you could come back because this is your house too. But boo, you're not coming back to me. You're not
Mm-hmm.
coming to me. Period. You're not coming back to me. I allowed him to come back, but he came back and we was roommates until I had him served.
That
And he had a hard time grasping that. I was like, no, no. I said, because you showed me even more so. You did abuse, all of the other stuff or whatever, but you left me with your children with no transportation. And, I said, so
that
you know what? Mm-mm, mm-mm. I'm not giving you a chance to do nothing else again to me. But I think also when he realized that his leaving didn't stop me from doing anything that I needed to do for me or my children.
right. That part.
And I say my children, even to this day, I'm like, they're mine. I know they ours, but they're mine.
They're yours. I'm with you on that. Now I am with you.
And he was like, he didn't think that I can do it without him.
Right.
That's the way some men think. They will get you in a place where they didn't think you will have a mind of your own. Hmm. I
That's
let them
it.
think. But
Girl, we actresses. Whew.
once I realized that I wasn't playing anymore with him, I wasn't going for that anymore. I can remember my first Christmas that he was gone. And a girlfriend of mine, I met her through my baby girl when she was in the second grade. I forgot what grade she was in middle school, I think, at this time. And so me and her became real good friends. And she called me and she said, what you doing for the holiday? She said, what you doing at home? I said, I'm watching Tyler Perry movies, just enjoying the kids that's going and whatever. She said, I'm going to come by. I said, sure. Her husband is in sleep. He next to her sleep. Baby, when I tell you he woke up and he came with her.
Woo.
When he got there, I told him, I said, look, I had on some flannel pajamas. I said, I'm not changing for you. He said, I bought some pop. Well, you know where the kitchen is. Go and fix the popcorn. I gave him what he needed. I said, you get over there in that corner. And
Wow.
so her thing was, you're at home. You're free to do whatever you want to, but you're at home. I said, I'm good with being at home. It's not about being single and being out there in the world to me, doing whatever. I just wanted peace in my home, peace in my life. So it wasn't about just being free from him. It was just the idea is just that I was able to be at home in peace and not in pieces, and to be able to watch a movie quietly and not be disturbed. That was such a good feeling. And if no one have experienced that before, they really need to, because that is such a good feeling. It's one of the best feelings that a person can have, not just a woman, but even a man. But that's one of the best feelings that you can have, is to be able to be in your home and
That's it.
just be at peace and not have to worry about someone fussing and cussing and drunk and all of that kind of stuff, but just doing what you want to do. Just loving on you.
Just loving on you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Taisha, for joining us tonight, my friend. I appreciate you knowing your self-worth. So, and this is the thing, Dr. Peters. You know, we sometimes we take certain things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight you have shared so many nuggets with us on tonight. And I want to say to Taisha and all that have watched, or those that will watch later, there is something amazing when you can get to this level where you can talk about this situation.
Mhm.
It's so many different ways I want to say it, but I don't want to say it. I don't want to
Right,
say it to offend anybody because you never know who may be watching. But
right.
there's so many different things that we could say tonight. But to have you in our midst and you giving us that raw and real message to those of us that have been through it, those that are going through it, because I know that there's some of you that are still going through it. You're still trying to hang in there and do what you got to do. We commend you on it.
Yes.
But tonight, Dr. Peters is telling you that there's some things that you can actually see that's going to help you get to that next level. It may not feel good, but it's going to work toward your good. Just keep hanging in there
Mm.
with us, with Dr. Peters and all of those Taisha and different ones that continue to tell us about how to deal with this situation, because we can make it, guys. We just gotta stick to it for a little bit. We got,
You know,
if you don't know how to get out of it, Dr. Peters can tell you some things. Yes, ma'am.
I want to say this. There's so many people that they don't think that there's life after abuse. I'm a living witness. You, Sister Victoria, is a living
Girl, me and
witness.
you both.
But what I've also found out is some people don't know how to be alone. Some people
Oh,
don't.
child, say that again, because that's the
There's
truth.
life after abuse. Women of God, men of God that may be hearing my voice. There's life after abuse to where you can have all
There's
that
life
you
out.
desire, but you have to want the life that you really want and put forth the effort to build it accordingly. And again,
Oh,
it's
come
not
on.
right, but even at that, at least you're living a life that you want to live and not the life that somebody wants to control. But
That it.
learn how to live with just you and not just wanting to have that person next to you. I
Mm,
can say we will want that person next to us, but we're not going to settle for that person next to us
nah. Mm-mm.
because we're not
Past
ready
that.
for it. We don't want a headache. We want who God has for us. And
That's
I,
it.
I say I went ahead of God. When I got with my ex, I I was a teenager. I didn't know all that I know biblically and all of that, but I know it now. He was never my husband. I went ahead of God. But in
That part.
my mind now and where I'm at now, under him, with him, I'm not going ahead of him. Why? Because I don't want to end up back in the same thing that I ended up before. Because they come in disguise. I'm even say here, because people
Woo.
say, because I didn't even heard, oh, your husband going to be the pastor or the bishop. Who said he's going to be one of those? Who said it?
Who said?
God has
Who
not told.
said?
He has not told me that.
Woo. Come on, Dr. Peters. You better say it.
So we got to stop putting labels on who you're supposed to be with and pray and ask God to show you who you're supposed to be with. But more importantly, pray and ask him to show you who you are. Fix
That
you.
part. Who
Fix
are you?
to get you right. To give you the strength to be that woman that you're supposed to be. Some women
That's
just want to take care of them. I get that. I understand that. Now, one thing that I can say, yes, he isolated me. Yes, he controlled me. He didn't want me to work. All of that stuff. But when I didn't work, I was able to be home with my children and go to the school. I like that. I'm really gonna say I love being at home with my
yeah.
children. But I knew, and I could have still stayed at home to be with them if I wanted to stay with him. But
That's
I
right.
had and my plan was to eventually leave. So I knew I needed to go to work, but I had to fight my way many a days to get out of the house to go to work. It was worth it until I got to where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So do what you must. Be quiet about it to yourself and not let him know your move or her know your move so that you can leave
That's it.
and be happy when you leave. and be the best you can, not just for you, if you have
That's it.
children, but for your children as well, because they're gonna
That's it.
need you.
That's it.
When I decided to leave, I knew it was in their best interest, but I had to make it about me, because if I made it about them, I wasn't gonna get myself right. So I had to make it about me so I can get me right, so that I can make sure I take care of them. So
Mm,
mothers, know that you got to take care of you so that you can take care of your babies.
mm,
To give God.
mm, mm. And that's the thing. And Taisha, she's throwing out some good stuff for us now, Dr. Peters. She said earlier, alone is not a disease, it's a healing place. That is so true. That is so true. We're gonna throw the mic to each other on that one, because that's the truth. And like you said, Taisha, and that as is what happens, because we are a living witness. We don't need to go ahead of God. God. I think back to when in one of the situations was in my situation. um I was laying beside in the bed between my daughters, and I was just praying to God, please don't let them come to steps. That was my prayer. Just don't let them come to steps. Just don't let them come to steps. I'm good. Just yeah. But then my prayer went when I finally understood that the prayer I had to pray a certain way to God, because I was praying in a mist, if you will. But when I got to praying and asking God, really, what is this about, and how can I get out of it? I mean, because you talk about getting beat up on your honeymoon, and then you stay in 7 years. Like Dr. Prince, me and you, we're gonna write a book about that now. I'm telling you, because I mean, I should have ran in, but I stuck it out. But at the end of the day, I was praying, and all of a sudden, God, God just I saw I had an outer body experience, if you will, where I saw my hand just come up on my chest and point to the door, and I said, "Oh, it's time. It's a wrap. It's time to get up out of here." And it was several weeks later before the action even took place. But I knew that was the answer that I was looking for. And sometimes we just have to be patient, have a plan of action, plan a means of escape. God gives us the means of escape, but we still have to plan for it to work. Dr. Peters, I tell you, you got to come back. We can't ever do no hour and be finished. I think I'm just gonna have to look. I know you have the Dr. Clara Peters show. We're gonna have to have the Dr. Clara Peters show stays on Uncensored Conversation for about a week. But I will be bringing you back, because I do, there's some other people. I actually gonna think I'm gonna do it a little bit different this next time, Dr. Peters. I think what I'm gonna do is have several of us on the show and talking. We do have the domestic violence conference coming up in 2024. You guys stay tuned. We will be giving out that date. One of the things that I do know, Dr. Peters, God does not allow me to do that conference in the month of October, because that's when everybody looks for domestic violence talk. So that's a hint to you all. It will not be in October. It will be earlier in 2024. Dr. Clara Peters will be one of those panelists. She will be talking with us during that time, as well as the other individuals that are coming back. We had 2 men. Now we're down to 1 that's a part of the gang, if you will. But we're looking for men and women that don't mind speaking out on your journey about going through domestic violence. Our domestic violence conference is titled "I Laugh Because I Don't Want to Cry," because if you've been through domestic violence physically, emotionally, and spiritually, you know that you cry a lot. But now it's time for us to continue to laugh and smile and show the enemy that we stood up to the enemy, and we're walking greater and higher and not allowing it to cripple us any longer. Dr. Peters, I'm going to be giving out your information along with the domestic violence hotline. I want people to reach out to this phenomenal woman. She is the lady in purple, but baby, when she walks into the room with that outfit on, Dr. Peters, I wish I could find that picture. I'm gonna have to see if I can find it. But when you see this lady, I want you to be able to reach out to her, book her for your next domestic violence event, allow her to come and speak to your group. Allow her to tell you her story. Allow her to help you through this healing process. Because with her and other folks like her, we're able to reach other communities. But it starts with you being able
Yeah.
to open your doors for people like Dr. Peters and myself to come in and talk about our experience with domestic violence.
Mhm.
It's something to have, somebody talk about it, but to have somebody talk about it that's been through it also gives a deeper impact. But I encourage you to get Dr. Peters, who is the pastor, grandmother, great grandmama. She the mother, and she's the domestic violence queen. She's the author. She's the actress. She's a life coach. Man, I can't tell you. Her repertoire goes so far and beyond. But just to know that she is a mighty woman of God who doesn't mind speaking out about domestic violence behind the walls. Dr. Peters, we appreciate you again tonight. Would you like to give a closing statement to our people that are watching? Because she will be coming back. I want her to rest her voice now because the enemy been attacking her out, these last few minutes of the show. But Dr. Peters, is there anything else you want to say tonight before we close out?
Yes, I want to give you all what he gave me when he set me free. And that is to live, laugh, love with no regrets. And the reason being is that you don't want to be 80 years old in your rocking chair, 90 years old in your saying, I wish I would have, but you can now. You can live now like you desire to live within what your reach can give you. You can
Yes.
laugh like you never laughed before and just embrace it to the fullest. And you can
Yes.
love with your ever being according to him
Yes.
with no regrets.
With no regrets.
I remember when he gave me that, and I was started saying it, and she's 17 now, but she was like 8 at the time, my granddaughter. She was like, Gammy, why you always say that? But I couldn't tell her why. But I
Yes.
told her in her own way, in a way to where for her age. But he gave me that when I came up out of this. He said, now I need you to go live, laugh, and love with no regrets. He set me free to do all those things. So why won't we do those things and not wait until? Because I have ladies that my spiritual daughters or that are mentors or whatever would say, but I can't. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. You can start where you at. It's not
Yes.
about having all of that extra stuff. It's not all about that.
That's it.
It's
That's
about being
it.
where you at and finding you where you at and just embracing it and doing those three things: live, laugh, and love. You only have the right now, so embrace it. Yes,
That's
people
it.
always talk about what they're going to do 5 years from now or 10 years from now. We may not see it. This is the last thing I want to say. We may not see it because sunrise is the day you was born. Dash is your living. Sunset is when you die. But that dash is your eulogy. That dash is your legacy. Your
Mm,
dash is your life right now. So what do you want your eulogy to say? What do
come
you
on.
want to remember you as? That woman or that man that was abused? No, that's not what you want to be remembered by.
Mm-mm.
So go ahead on, live your eulogy right now. So when they
That
preach uh, 20, 30, 40 years from now, you're going to preach your own eulogy
that's
because you
it. That's it.
thank you all for joining us on tonight. I pray that something that me and Sister Victoria said on tonight bless you. And if you can, share it with someone that you know that needs to hear it. God bless you all.
Amen.
And thank you,
Oh,
sis, for having me. As always, it's a pleasure to be here with you. I love you.
yes.
You know I'm always here.
Yes, ma'am. Guys, my guest tonight, the phenomenal Dr. Clara Peters, has been with us. Dr. Peters, I am forever endowed to you, my friend. I look forward to us continuing this conversation and many other conversations to come. This has been amazing. To Stephanie, Taisha, to all of you that have been watching, to those that are watching behind the scenes right now, as Dr. Peters said, we are here for you. Do what you
Mhm.
need to do. Contact us. Contact the hotline. Contact what you. We will get you what you need. If you reach out to either one of us, we will definitely get you where you need to get to. But here's the domestic violence hotline that's shown on the screen right now. Please write it down. If you know somebody else, write it down for them and put it in their hands. Do whatever needs to do so we can crunch some of this domestic violence that's happening in the world. Next week, my guest is going to be the phenomenal communicator queen herself, Lisa Dell Washington from the Power of Shut Up podcast will be my guest next week. She's going to be coming and talking to us and telling us what's behind the scenes of the new podcast and what's coming forth for her phenomenal program. So I guess next week will be the phenomenal Lisa Dell Washington. Please join us next week. And we will be finishing out the month of October on the 29th with my guest, Lady Katrina Home Reeves. She is the wedding officiant expertise. She will be our guest on October the 29th. So come and join us for the rest of October. But look, guys, my birthday is the 27th. I can put my Cash App out there, and y'all send us some money so I can go enjoy myself on my birthday. I don't know, Dr. Peters. They say if you ask, because you have not, because you don't ask. So if
Right.
can I, y'all want my Cash App is $Victoria M Holland, and I take all Zelle, Cash App, PayPal. It don't hurt to ask, Dr. Peters.
It does.
So my birthday's coming up, and I am blessed to be here to see almost 61 years, and I'm super excited about that. October 27th is going to be a big day, not only because it's my birthday, Dr. Peters, but hopefully if the publishing people don't hold us up anymore, our latest book will be coming out. Stop Walking on Eggshells. Breaking the Silence on People Pleasing. The official launch date will be on my birthday. So y'all come back and be with me to help me celebrate. It'll be an all-day event that we're going to be talking out through my birthday about the new book. But please come back and join us. We'll see you next time, my friends, right here on Uncensored Conversation with Elevated, Not Tolerated. We'll see you real soon.